Here's what we do. We will set up.
Okay guys, on to part 5 of Notes for the New Gamer. So in the previous section we talked about paint, and to let you know, I picked up another Malifaux crew, the Lady Justice crew, and so I figured this would be appropriate, and we're going to pretend that this is my first new box of miniatures in starting this game, Malifaux. So for this section we're going to be talking about prep, before you paint, all of the steps necessary for that. Now my personal ethos on that is that prep is more important than painting. Actually, prep is the most important stage in painting and getting your model ready for the battlefield. I'm just going to open this up, have a look inside. Okay, so inside we've got our models. These are Death Marshals, and here's Lady J. Here's Judge. Okay, so that's the 5 that come in here. I'm going to take these stat cards and laminate the cards. So put those aside. Also, going to keep the foam. Foam is going to be good and useful and allow me to do things with foam trays and transport. So I'm going to hold on to that. So I'm just going to pull out a couple of these models here. So for each model you get a slotted base, a plastic slotted base. And let's see. And you've got some sarcophagi. So we'll put those out. Now here's the thing. What I'm going to do is these come in pieces, so like there's this slot here. I'm assuming that there's going to be a peg for one of the models where a part of their body attaches to that. Might be this guy here. So this guy here, maybe, I don't know for sure, but maybe he attaches here somehow. Tilt the camera down so you can see this. Maybe he attaches down here onto this. So I'm going to need to make sure that those pieces fit. Also, I'm going to want to use some clippers to take care of things like this little metal flash here, mold lines, just like hard edges. I'm going to have to do probably some clipping and some filing. And after that, for any parts that glue, you're going to want to make sure that those pieces will fit appropriately into the slot that they're supposed to fit in. Now, one other thing I want to point out is when you get new kits like this, one of the things you're going to want to do after you've done your clipping and filing and so forth, but before you've done your gluing, you're going to want to give these models a little soak in some warm water and some soap. And the reason you want to do that is because when these things are manufactured, they're pulled out of these molds. And when they're pulled out of the molds, a lot of times there's a grease involved or some sort of release agent that they use to get them out of the molds. And so that ends up being oily, greasy, it tracks dirt, and you don't want that on your model when you want to paint it, because it means that the paint's not going to stick. So that's one of the first things I do after I'm done cleaning up the model, is I'll give them a soak in bath and water. Then I'm going to look at gluing, and we'll see what we want to do with the bases. So anyway, that's the first step. Okay, so put the crew together. Well, first thing I did was I cleaned them up using, just gave them a little bit of a warm water bath with just a drop of soap in it, and then rinse them off to get any residue off. And then I started to put everything together. So I glued things together where there were gaps, like here on the Death Marshal's shoulder there. I couldn't get that piece to fit together exactly how I wanted to, so I put some green stuff in there. And you can see what I did with the basing schematic is I went with some custom skulls. So there are skulls in rocks, and I'm using that to do their bases. Now, one thing I do is whenever I'm working with some base work that needs to be primed and cleaned up, I will go ahead and prime those at the same time that I'm priming the model. Sometimes I'll just I'll glue everything together, like in the case here, glue everything together because I'm priming it and painting it anyway. In some cases, like for this guy, I just have a few skulls in the front, and what I'm actually planning on doing is just putting some rocks or some gravel around the skulls. And I don't have the gravel attached because I'm actually I don't plan on painting the gravel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime the miniature. I'm actually, because I don't want to have a big white spot back here, I'm actually going to pull him out and probably have him, I'll attach him to something else, prime him separately. I might put him on another base instead. So I would prime that, paint that separately, and then when it's time, when this is all painted, I'd put the gravel down and then remove him from his tab and glue him onto that base. So that's really the one of the judgment calls you have to do is you have to be predictive of your basing and whether or not you plan on painting it. So in this case, I'm going to be painting most of the basing except for this Death Marshal. So we're just about ready to prime. The last thing I have to do is just make sure everything's dry. Probably going to sand off or clean up a little bit of the green stuff where I had to do green stuff. And then after that, we should be ready to go with primer. Now, as far as what primer to choose, there are black, white, and gray primer. You prime white if you want really bright colors, or if you're working with really bright colors or intense colors, and you want things to pop and you want your detail to pop, white is the way to go. Black will obviously give your models a little darker tone. And in my experience, it's been that black generally looks a little bit solid by the time you're layering up to the color you want. So you have an advantage in black. As you have advantages and disadvantages in terms of black and white. I tend to go white because I like having the really sharp detail. That means I might end up with some having to clean up, do some touch up or some spot application because white will show your mistakes more clearly than black will. However, I'm totally cool with that. I think these are going to come out cool if I prime them white. Okay, so I went ahead and completed the priming step. So all the miniatures are primed. Now, I wanted to talk about the strategy of painting these. Now, I'm not going to show you how to paint these because I'm not the greatest painter in the world. However, I will go over at least a strategy for painting these. So what I did was, the main rule is, when you're working with a force, you normally have a commander, and you may have like a character or so. The one thing I would say is if you're just starting off painting miniatures, or if this is maybe the first time you're painting this force, like in my case, I haven't worked with these particular miniatures yet, don't fall into the trap of just wanting to paint the characters first. The reason why I say that is because you're gonna actually get better as you paint. So you don't want your best miniatures with your oldest or maybe not as strong techniques being used on them. So what you normally do is you stick with the grunts, you stick with the easier miniatures first. And in this case, I'm painting up the Death Marshals first. See if this guy, hopefully he doesn't leave a mark because his paint is still a little bit wet. I'm still working on him. So you start with the grunts first. So in this case, I painted up one Death Marshal, and that's the usual way I go about it if I'm painting a squad, is I'll paint one up to see just the color scheme that I want. As you can see, I changed a few things on the Death Marshal when you compare him to the one that's on the package. So you paint one up as kind of a model for the others. When you're painting only 3, though, it's really not that important. It's more of when you're painting like 5 or more type of model. So this guy's in the end process, or in the closing process of being painted, and meanwhile I have started to base coat a couple of the other ones. You can see that they don't really have much shading or much highlighting going on. Now, the basic approach when you're painting miniatures like these is you want to start from the inside, the deepest recesses of the model, and work your way out. So typically you start with flesh. A lot of times I like to start with the eyes, so I'll paint the eyes first because I know I will make a mess painting the eyes, and that's probably the more tedious part of the model. Then you paint the flesh, then out to the clothes, like in this case the black jumpsuit that they're wearing, and then out to cloaks, hats, weapons, and then basically just work your way outside the model. So once these are done and you have your squad done, then you can move on to the nicer miniatures. So I'm going to just finish painting these and work my way up to Bishop, and then, the Judge, and then Lady Justice. Okay, so 2 nights later, I have them all painted up to where they're combat ready, or at least painted up to a standard where they're going to look good from a distance of about 3 feet. But, you know, they still fairly happy with them. Some cleanup to do, just a little bit of more base work on there. But other than that, they're done. I gave them a seal coat, and now they're ready for play. Overall, I think they painted up fairly quick. It's a good set for folks that are starting Malifaux. Yeah, that's it really. Just, you know, that was the strategy for painting these, and you know, for me it's going to be on to the next project, but I'm going to try and get these on the field and get them some playtime, and that would take us, in this case, in our example, that would take us to our first game with these models. But the main thing, you know, if this is your first set, keep things pretty simple. As you can see, I really didn't do a whole lot of special effects. You can see there's still some work to be done here. But I kept it pretty simple. I just wanted to paint the models up to a reasonably decent standard for the field. And I think that's all you can expect. And, you know, when you see these from 3 feet away, they look great. So, other than that, I think we're about ready to go. Once again, thanks for watching, part 5. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks.